So till now we have discussed about radioimmunoassay, ELISA, immunofluorescence. Now we will be discussing the last aspect of it, that is Western blotting technique. Now coming to Western blotting technique, we heard this Western blotting technique many times. Might be you might have studied it in your molecular biology also. So this technique is generally adopted. When we speak about Western blotting technique, always we use we the thing that comes into our mind is that it is used for identifying the HIV infections in the body. So the technique that is confirming the HIV infections in the body is Western blotting technique. Okay. Now this is used to identify the specific proteins in the mixture. This is a spell check. This is used to identify specific proteins in the mixture, and these proteins are separated on SDS page. Proteins are then transferred onto the membrane, and the membrane is flooded with radio labeled or enzyme linked poly or monoclonal antibodies specific for that protein. So that is those are the steps in the procedure. Say for example, if we suspect that a person's sample has HIV proteins in them. So to confirm that, first what they do, if a person is has come with some symptoms, then the doctor advises them to go for a tridot test. So that is the basic test, first test that is done for identifying the HIV. So what is this tridot test? It is a small chip method. In the chip, there will be three dots that will be there. So one will be written as 1, and second one will be written as 2, and the third one will be the test T. It will be written like this. HIV 1 stands for HIV 1, 2 stands for HIV 2, and T stands for test. Okay, and these two compounds, it is a what to say, enzyme linked substrate. Okay, so this is an enzyme linked substrate. So when we are adding the serum sample into these two things, so these are already a colored substances that will be seen. When we are adding a test sample, that is test sample is nothing but the serum sample into it. So if that color is corresponding to the 1, it indicates that the person is suffering with HIV 1 strain. We know that HIV strains are two types, that is HIV strain 1 and HIV strain 2. So if it is matching with the second one, then it indicates that the person is suffering with HIV 2 strain. But this will not. Sometimes there will be false positive results, and many times false positive results are seen, especially in case of HIV. So the doctor will never go for a rapid test kit and then confirm that the person is positive or negative for HIV. Then they will advise to go for Western blotting technique, which will be the confirmatory test. And this Western blotting technique, so you know blotting techniques, there are three types of blotting techniques: southern blotting, northern part blotting, and Western blotting. Okay, one is for RNA, one is for DNA, and one is for protein. And especially if you see the Western blotting technique is for protein separation. So for protein separation, generally we use an SDS page, that is SDS sodium dodecyl sulfate, SDS sodium dodecyl sulfate polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis. Okay, so we are using acrylamide here. Okay, there are two different types of gels that are generally in use for electrophoresis. One is acrylamide gels, and the other one is agarose gels. People have a misconception generally that agarose is used for DNA and RNA, and acrylamide, it is not used for the proteins, and acrylamide is used for proteins. So like that. So definitely DNA and RNA cannot be done in acrylamide. Generally they don't prefer it because the results will not be that encouraging. But definitely agarose for protein you can use these things. Only thing what we are doing is the percentage of agarose that we use matters. Don't assume or don't go into a misconception that agarose is used only for DNA and RNA and acrylamide is used only for protein. It all depends upon the percentage of gel that we use. Okay, and what does this percentage tell us? This percentage will either increase the pore size or decrease the pore size. So that is what the basic concept which you have to keep in mind. DNA and RNA are larger molecules, big molecules. So for big molecules, if you are keeping if you are taking the higher percentages, then what will happen? They cannot move through the agarose. So they will be trapped or blocked at the starting point itself. They can't move. So similarly, if you are taking a larger pore size, that means if you are taking a lower percentage for a protein, what happens? The protein will move off fastly. It won't get separated. So for that reason, generally what we prefer is we use acrylamide and bisacrylamide for separation of the proteins, and agarose for DNA and RNA, so that you will get confirmed results. But it doesn't limit that you should not use this for this or use this for this. Now, coming to why we are using an SDS, sodium dodecyl sulfate. Sodium dodecyl sulfate is nothing but a detergent that will denature the protein into polypeptides. So that is the reason why we use a SDS lysis. Okay, now when the serum sample is given, okay, if a person's serum sample is given, that serum sample is first added with SDS, so that the proteins that are there will get denatured and then get fragmented into smaller peptides. Now these things are transferred onto an electrophoretic gel, mostly page, that is polyacrylamide gel, and then it will be subjected to electrophoresis. Okay, once that electrophoresis is done, the particles gets separated depending upon their molecular size and as well as on the charge. So charge and molecular size separation will happen. The larger molecules will be there at the initial, that means in the initial run, and the smaller molecules will move to the end part of it. So this is the basic principle of SDS page. Okay, now how actually it practically applies for HIV. So let us see like this. Now suppose if a person, what they will do, they will collect all the samples, and gels will be made on a page, acrylamide gel. So 1 2 3 4 5 6, assume there are some 6 gels that were there. So what they load in the first gel? In the first gel they will load HIV-1 antigen. In the second gel they will load HIV-2 antigen. So these are the standard antigens. Now what are these A, B, C, D, what I am writing? These are the 4 different samples from 4 different patients. Assume this is from patient 1, this is from patient 2, patient 3 and patient 4. Now we have understood the initial process of separation of the things. Now what they do, they run the electrophoresis. So when they run the electrophoresis, what happens? Your HIV-1 antigen will fragment at some point here. Okay, so let us use a different color and check it. So it will fragment it somewhere here. Say for example, assume. Now similarly, HIV-2 will will move in the electrophoretic gel and be there at some point here. Okay. Now what happens? So your A, B, C, D also runs, and they get uh, um resolved at some points here. Some will be here, some will be here, and some will be somewhere there. Okay. So now once this running it onto the gel is done, what they do is they do a technique called as electroporation. Okay, so we do a technique called as electroporation. We cannot directly do anything on the gel. Acrylamide gel will not support the next process to be completed. So what is this electroporation technique? We take this gel and put it onto a porous membrane sheet. And what is this porous membrane sheet that is generally used? It is a nitrocellulose paper. Okay, so don't think that it is a very complex technique. Simply they take this paper, that is nitrocellulose paper, they take out the gel and put the nitrocellulose paper onto the gel and then subject it to electric current. So that technique is called as electroporation. So what happens when you are passing the electric current from gel onto the paper? The proteins that are there at that specific locations will get transported onto the nitrocellulose paper. So the proteins will no more be there on the gel, but they get simply transferred onto the nitrocellulose paper at that respective positions only. So now you have to imagine that this is a nitrocellulose paper with the proteins that got separated at that specific positions. Now what we do, take this nitrocellulose paper, and then how you do ELISA technique? Same way you will do it here. So now your protein got separated, your antigen got separated. Now take this and dip it in a solution. Generally what they do here, that nitrocellulose paper is dipped into a solution containing antibodies. Okay, so antibodies that are tagged with a enzyme. Understood? Is that clear? What they are doing now? They are taking this nitrocellulose paper where the impregnation of the respective proteins at that respective positions are done, and that nitrocellulose paper is incubated in a solution containing antibodies which are tagged with the enzyme. Okay. Now, once this once it is incubated with the antibodies, these antibodies goes and binds to the proteins at wherever that specific locations are there. Okay. If that antigen is there, the antibody will go and bind to it. If the antigen is not there, the antibody will not bind to it. That is a simple equation. If antigen is there, antibody will bind to it. If it is not there, it will not bind to it. Okay. Now, after an incubation, specific incubation with the antibodies, the nitrocellulose paper is washed, and onto that, because we have added an enzyme, then you need to add a chromogenic substrate. So the next step is incubate that same paper in a chromogenic substrate. Chromogenic substrate, like how we have observed in the ELISA technique, it imparts color. So this substrate is highly specific to this enzyme, so it binds to it. When enzyme binds with the substrate, it results in the formation of a product, chromogenic product. So that gives a color. So if you are seeing a colored spot on a nitrocellulose paper, it indicates positive for that particular sample. Suppose if this is emitting positive color, if this A sample is emitting a positive color, and one and two will definitely give the spots. Spot colors will be seen definitely. Okay, for 1 and 2. So if you are seeing any spot at any person's sample which is matching with that particular thing, then say for example, if you take the case of A sample, that A sample has developed a colored spot, and that colored spot is matching with one spot, it is in that range, I mean it is at that position. So what you confirm that the A person is suffering with HIV-1 infection. Oh, because the antibodies are tagged and the colored reaction is seen here. If you see the case of B will not show a positive result. And again, same C also will not show a positive result, but D might have shown a positive result at that respective position. So this is how Western blotting technique is done. Okay. With this, we are done with the antigen antibody reactions. There is one more technique called as a flow cytometry, but that will not be recorded as a antigen antibody reaction, but that is called as a flow cytometry is called as cell sorting technique. Okay, flow cytometry. So this is just for an information, extra information I'm telling you. This is useful for your entrance examinations. So flow cytometry is used for separation of cells. What cells generally we use for separation? You see, I told you lymphocytes you cannot see under a microscope and differentiate them. Both of them look alike. But if you want to separate the B cells from that of a T cells, we use this technique, that is flow cytometry. Okay, so remember this. The technique that is used to separate B lymphocyte from that of a T lymphocyte by using a laser beam. We pass a laser beam, and there will be a deflection of the light based upon, sorry, there will be a deflection of the light, yeah, right, the basing on this deflection of the beam, the cell that is tagged with one fluorescent compound will deflect at one angle, and the one that is tagged with the T will deflect at another angle. So cell sorters will be there, and the cells will be collected in that particular cells, so in that particular containers. So that's why the technique is called as flow cytometry or cell sorting technique. Okay, just remember this. This is only a extra information for you. Okay, hope you all understood this topic.